everyone, today I'm going to walk you through the setup of my new updated meal planning system in a recipes notebook, and I'm converting this into a meal planning planner. Today I'm giving away a lot of free printables with this video, which will all be linked down below. I'll go over how each of these printables could be used in your planner. Please make sure that you select actual size when you're printing these inserts so that they fit into your happy planner. The first thing that I'm going to do is change the titles of these tabs. These aren't really organized in the way that I personally think about making meals. For me, I like to organize the meals based upon the meat category. And I'm going to use some tabs that came with the Planner Society kit. And if you don't have Planner Society tabs, you could take some scrapbook paper and then cut out labels on some sticker paper. So here, for example, I just made a tab using scrapbook paper, and then I covered it with a label that I printed onto some sticker paper. So now I have 6 new tabs: beef, lamb, pork, poultry, seafood, and sides, and that's where things like vegetable dishes will go. I just left the desserts tab on here because that's something that I would still use. And then the last tab, if you saw my Thanksgiving video series, I converted that into my tab for planning for Thanksgiving. I plan in the future to probably add on some more tabs, but for now this will work for me. So the next step is to transfer all of my recipes in here. So for example, if I have something from a cookbook, then I'll add it. Or if I have an online recipe, I'll add it here. So I don't have to start digging through a bunch of cookbooks or looking up recipes online when I need to do meal planning. It's all in the same place. My next step is to add this monthly expansion pack. It comes with 6 months, but I'm only going to be using 3 months at a time because I don't want this notebook to get too bulky. So right now I have January, February, and March in here. I'll show you how I'm using this monthly expansion pack in just a few moments, but first I want to go over the meal planning tab. In this meal planning tab is where I'm keeping all of the inserts. The first insert is called Locations. The purpose of this printable is to aid with shopping. So for my husband and I, we really want to know which of the Costco's that item is sold at because different Costco's carry different items. So I decided to create this insert so that I could quickly reference where each of the items are sold so I can plan out my shopping trips accordingly. At the top it says item, store, and amount, meaning does it have 4 pounds of ground beef in it? So I can use that information to make sure that I'm going to have enough to make all of the meals for that week or that month. My next insert is called Stock Ingredients. These are ingredients that I always want to have in my freezer, my pantry, my fridge at all times because I use them so often and they're so common in the recipes that I'm using. So the idea of this is that when I'm making my shopping list, I will go through the items on this list and make sure that I have them, and if I don't have them, then I'll add them to the shopping list for that week. The next printable is for perishable ingredients. So when I'm meal planning, I like to group together recipes that use up something in my fridge that's going to go bad. So I need to know what recipes have those ingredients in them. And that's where this printable comes in. The next insert is for quick, easy meals that you can prepare if you don't have enough time to cook that night. The last two printables that I'm adding today are called food gifts and food gift tracker. So the food gifts printable is just where I'm going to brainstorm ideas for what I can give to people for different holidays like Valentine's Day, Easter, Halloween, Christmas, if I decide that I want to give gifts that year. And then the food gift tracker is my way of making sure that I am making enough for each person and that I've given them their gift. My final insert is my meal planning dashboard. So if you saw my meal planning video previously, you'll recognize this. This is just a laminated piece of scrapbook paper with some washi down the side just to help reinforce it, and I just hole punched it. But I wanted to make some changes to this based upon how I place the tabs on here and to make it a little bit more organized and categorized. So to create these, I just use these Post-it tabs and I wrote down a symbol, HG for Hungarian goulash. I chose to use these Post-it tabs because they are repositionable, and a lot of times my schedule changes and I have to move the meals to different days. So if I do it this way, I don't have to continuously cross it out and rewrite it. I've broken up this insert into chuck steak for stew, flank steak, ground beef, beef and lamb, other, pork shoulder, pork other, shrimp, seafood other, chicken thighs, poultry other, sides, which are mostly vegetables, and then leftovers. I also have tabs for eating out in case we decide to eat out those days. We don't really do that often though, to save money. And I will show you how I use these freeze and extra for lunches tabs. Since this is the monthly extension pack, it doesn't come pre-dated, so it has these stickers. I am only cooking every other day, and I make sure that I cook extra and then save the rest for leftovers the following day. That way my cooking time is cut in half. So now I want to show you how I'm going to use the pieces that, or the inserts that come with the extension pack before I get started planning, because these are going to help me with planning. And I'm going to go through my freezer and my fridge and check for the meats that I currently have on hand and the perishables on hand, because I want to use those up. Then I'm going to pull out my perishable ingredients inserts, as well as the meal planning dashboard. And I'm going to take a look at my perishable ingredients and see which recipes use up these perishable ingredients. So for example, I want to use up the onions, so I'm going to look on here, chicken paprikash, Hungarian goulash, both use that. So my first meal will be the chicken paprikash. I'll do Hungarian goulash for the second meal. I have some green onions that I want to use up, so I'll do the teriyaki flank steak. I'm grouping recipes that use the same perishable ingredients together to reduce the amount of produce that's wasted. Also, if I have a lot of one type of meat, then I choose more recipes that will use up that meat. So for example, this month I have a lot of flank steak, so a lot of the recipes use flank steak. So this new recipe section is where I reference when I have a tab that says new recipe. And I don't want to use up one of my tabs for the name of a recipe if I haven't tried that recipe yet and I don't know if we're even going to like it. So a recipe that I have been really wanting to try out is chicken shawarma. I'm going to write down the date, name of the cookbook, and the page number. So when I see this on the 25th, I'll turn to this page in this cookbook. If we decide that we like this recipe, then I will write out the recipe and add it to this notebook so that I no longer have to reference the cookbook anymore and all the recipes are in the same place. How am I using this freezer meals section? Well, I want to use this as an inventory of how many meals we have available in our freezer so that we know if it says freezer meal on the tab, then I can check here and pick out one of these. We can use freezer meals to prepare quick lunches on the weekend or to take to work. I'm using a blue tab that I wrote freeze on in order to indicate that I will have extra servings of that recipe and it needs to be frozen down. Chicken korma doesn't freeze well, but it makes 8 servings, so the extras can be used for lunches, and that's what this tab indicates. Fajitas only makes 4 servings, Cajun shrimp 4, shrimp bok choy 4, and the rest can be used for lunches on Valentine's Day since we are eating out that day. Then sesame beef flank steak has 4, that will be covered. And then I mentioned that I want to try making extra doing batch cooking, but I haven't really done that before, so I want to practice and only do 2 recipes my first time. So I decided that we'll do chili and French onion meatball soup. And then when you get to this tab, it says freezer meal, so that means that we can go over to this freezer meal section and pick out one of these to eat for dinner that night. So for example, the flank steak will need to be put in the fridge for thawing the night before. So how do you make sure that you have enough food for all of these recipes and you have the perishable ingredients at the right time? My solution to this is to create a section with the amounts needed for the recipes I'm using. So I have a section for flank steak, chicken thighs, shrimp, beef chuck, etc. I also have a section for perishable ingredients, in this case onions. So now I'm going to go through week by week, recipe by recipe, and write out how much of each item I need based upon these categories. And also write out the unusual ingredients, which are things that I'm going to have to check my pantry or freezer to make sure that I have before I generate my shopping list. I'm using this page for my shopping list. I have a Sprouts section, Target, Costco, and Sam's Club. And then I'm going through each of the recipes and writing down items that I need to check my pantry or fridge for. And if I know that I do not have the item, then I add it to the shopping list. At the same time, I'm writing down how much of each of the meats or perishable ingredients I need to have. And if I realize that I'm going to need more of that meat or perishable ingredient than I have on hand, then I add it to the shopping list. I'm using these sections on the side to track my shopping schedule. I'm using colored circles to indicate which days of the month I am planning to go shopping. The next 2 pages I'm going to use to plan out my batch cooking. I have a section for which cooking utensils I'll need to get out, the vegetables I'll need to chop at the same time that are similar between the recipes, and also the meats that are similar between the recipes. The idea of this is that you are preparing the items at the same time to reduce the amount of time spent on prep overall. So here I've written down notes about the Valentine's Day gifts that I'm planning to give out, the recipes that I'm going to be using and how I can access those recipes, as well as how I will be wrapping the cookies. I have a section for celebrating this month, possible things that will affect what I'll be having for dinner. So if I celebrate Sarah's promotion, then I'll need to go to dinner with her, and I'll have to use an eating out tab to indicate that. Birthdays this month, in case I need to take someone to dinner or maybe bake them a cake, it's good to know. And then also holidays, because if you want for Valentine's Day, we'll need to go out to dinner that day, so that gets put in the calendar, which is right here. So this is my current meal planning system. I really hope that this video gave you new ideas for setting up or modifying your own meal planning system. And I really hope that you enjoy the free printables that I created for you. I really appreciate all of you who are supporting this channel. And if you think that anyone can benefit from some of the ideas in this video, I would appreciate it so much if you could share this video with your friends or whoever might benefit from the ideas. I'll see you next Saturday. Bye!